Yes. All right. Welcome to the bonding hour. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have the deep pleasure of interviewing Marla Renee Stewart, whom I have known. I was thinking about it today. I think I may have known you for about 15 years now. I remember one of the first times I saw you socially was when the Atlanta Roller Girls were still skating in that skate rink, like on the edge of Stone Mountain. And we were both sitting on the floor in that bout. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah,
That was so
absolutely.
much
Yes.
fun.
Good time. I love the roller girls. Yeah.
So Marla actually was one of my graduate students when I was a professor and had this wonderful master's that I got so excited about. In her master's defense, I started talking about all of these ideas of like, oh, and you could do this and you could do that. This is so exciting. It's such a good idea. And I think it came across to everyone in the room as like, I want you to do this for the masters. And everybody was like, oh my God, no. And Marla, just your face, you were like, oh my God, please don't make me do all of that. I mean, they were good ideas. And yes, you've gone on to do some of them, in fact, but certainly not all those things for a master's. So since then, you have done a million things. Um, got a master's in sociology, is that, and sex educator, author, founder of Velvet Lips, which maybe you'll tell us a little bit about, founder of Sex Down South, which I hope you'll tell us about. What else do you want to tell us about your educational background?
So my educational background, so I originally came out of California, and I got my BA in psychology, and I minored in human sexuality, LGBT studies, which back then was called gay and lesbian studies. Then I came to Atlanta for graduate school, where I did my master's in sociology. I actually was in the PhD program, and had some troubles in that program, and ended up just leaving pretty much ABD. So did not have a chance to finish my PhD. So I have a PhD education, but no PhD. But
And
other
ABD
than that,
for our
you said
listeners
what?
out there means ABD for our listeners out there means all but dissertation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I've been, but that hasn't slowed me down. Of course I still think about it, and of course I still want my PhD, but at the same time, I'm still thankful for everything that I've been able to accomplish so far without it. So, yeah, I'm proud of that too.
And you've Velvet Lips is one of the things you've accomplished. Can you tell us about that? What is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Velvet Lips is my sexuality education program, business, or and it is. I started it while in graduate school. So this was when I was venturing into wanting to teach people about sex and sexuality. And so as a graduate student, I was going to different colleges. So Agnes Scott and Spelman, and doing sexuality workshops for them. And even at GSU, I was doing like sexuality workshops. So I was like, yeah, this feels good and right. And so Velvet Lips came about because of that. And basically what I do is a combination of sex therapy. So I'm not a sex therapist, but I use practices that sex therapists use, right? And then I do somatic body work, or somatic therapy. So teaching people how to touch people, and then comprehensive sex ed. So combining all of those techniques, really helping people around seduction, communication, sex skills, helping them to have and better sex lives, to enhance the sex lives for individuals as well as folks in relationships. So that is kind of where I have landed. And then that helped me to generate Sex Down South, which is our conference in Atlanta. And so that is a 3-day conference where it's learning everything that I love to do, learn and party. So, all day learning, having fun, all day learning. And then, in the evening, having fun and being able to express yourself in whatever way. So I've been really thankful and proud of that too. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's just two of the things. I do other things too, but I can just
Yes,
stick to
those are
for
two
now.
huge things. Let's start there and move on to the many, many other things you're doing. So with Velvet Lips, like, who are your ideal clients? Like, who would come to see you if they needed help? What kind of help would they be like, hey, we need you?
Yeah, so people come to me for all sorts of reasons, but particularly, a lot of folks in relationships tend to come to me because maybe they have some mismatch around libido, or maybe they want to enhance their skills, like something's not quite right. Maybe they're just trying to get rid of their boredom. I've had couples where, they finally have the kids out of the house and they're empty nesters, and they're like, we need to get back to us. So just helping them reconnect in the ways that that helped maybe get those kids in the first place, but really just trying to and helping individuals too, like help them to define their values around the relationships, because I've had some horror stories just around relationships and folks that I've dated, and I can relate. So I really just try to help single folks get to finding the person or persons that are right for them.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that perspective on relationships. Absolutely. So what gave you the idea to start Sex Down South? What was that conversation like?
Tia and I had been working together. She recruited me for an event she had a long time ago. There was this magazine called Corset Magazine, which was a sexuality magazine for women of color. And so she asked me to come out to do a workshop or demo. And so she was like, "Oh my gosh, I fell in love with like your bald head on the screen." And we just kind of became like fast friends, and we were like, we want to work more together. So we did. We ended up doing my birthday party at my house where there were over 200 people. I had a carnival themed birthday. I had an empowering the pussy birthday, and we had we did a Prince no pants party, and we had like lots of different events that we did, and then we were like, we want to do something bigger. And so with that, we just sat on my couch, and Tia was like, Sex Down South, and I was like, yes, like, because I was like, I want a conference. And we just were like, yeah, let's do a conference. And we did it. We definitely asked, like, okay, we need a team for this. This can't be us two. But, I think it's hard for people who want to venture on something new. And Tia and I, luckily, have been wonderful, wonderful business partners. I couldn't have asked for a better business partner. We just think the same. We, just have 100% trust in each other, and like it's incredible friendship and business partnership, and I'm very thankful for that. So but yeah, Sex Down South just came out of the need of it's our love child, right? So it's T and I's love child. So me being cis Black queer femme, non-monogamous, her being cis Black straight polyamorous, fun size, a person with some, has some disabilities, like we kind of meshed like all of our identities, and we're like, these are the type of people we want to see at the conference. You know, we had been to, I'm coming from the educator side and she came from like the enthusiast side. So she had been like all around the world learning stuff about her sexuality. And I was just, you know, like I said, coming from the teaching education side. So I was like, you know, when we combine our powers, that's kind of what Sex Down South is.
Oh, that is so fantastic. I love that. And I have to say, I think I've been to 3 of them and had an amazing time. Every time learned so much and had so much fun. And if people haven't been to a sexualities conference, Marla, like what should they expect? Like if they come to Sex Down
Well,
South?
if it's not ours, it's probably going to be boring. No, I mean there are some sexuality conferences out there that are pretty good. But what we found and why we created the conference really is because what we found is that they were really white, they were really academic oriented, they were really they didn't have enough fun, and they were kind of stale environments. We didn't see a lot of people of color. We didn't see a lot of us or people that even shared many of our identities. And so that was really troubling for us. So we were like, we need to create our own space. We need to have this. So so that was really why we created this space. And but typically at sexuality conferences, I mean, you are going to learn some things, but the thing about ours, I think, is that's special is like we provide live demos, you know, sometimes. So if there's something in particular, like you are going to get, if it's a spanking class, most likely it's going to be practicing, right? Or there might be a fisting demo, or there might be, you know, something of that sort where we have the ability to actually show people instead of just talking about it. And so I think that's really what differentiates us from a lot of different other sexuality conferences. So, but yeah, I think at our conference, we have a healing space, we have a dungeon, we have, you know, free on-call therapists for folks who, you know, need resources or, you know, get triggered or have just want to talk to somebody. We have that available. So we really try to provide childcare. So we really try to provide what people need, and we try to make it as accessible as possible, as long as people let us know, you know, ahead of time what their accessibility needs are. We usually try to make that happen. So
I love that the same space provides a dungeon and childcare. That is fantastic. Just in case people don't know, could you just briefly explain what a dungeon is?
yeah, absolutely. So a dungeon is a place where people can go and enact maybe their kink fantasies or want to dive, or maybe just want to be a voyeur and see what other people are doing in spaces. And it's, you know, kink is, you know, the 50 Shades of Grey. I'm sure people have heard of 50 Shades of Grey. So, so BDSM, you know, so we have like a couple of swings and a couple of St. Andrew's crosses and some spanking benches. So people can just play around with it. And I love Midori's quote of BDSM is a childhood joy with adult sexual privilege and cool toys, right? So so that's pretty much what it is. And yeah, we have a space where you can have fun, and we have, you know, professionals that will help you, and you know, people monitoring just to make sure that, you know, everything is going smoothly and that you're safe.
Fantastic. And I would also say that while there are like nude people there sometimes, you can go as an attendee and you can keep your clothes on if you want to, or not if you're in an area where you want to take off your clothes. We're not talking about like the glass elevator, you know, but we mean like the designated zone. and people are really respectful. Like, just because you have your clothes off doesn't mean anyone can come up and touch you. It's really clear, the boundaries. So it's actually, I would say, a good place to explore for the first time and just kind of learn and see what your boundaries are. And it is, I would say, primarily for BIPOC folks. So white people like me, I am very abundantly clearly white. We are welcome and come with awareness of white privilege, come with awareness of listening deeply before anything else. Like, take it as an opportunity to learn and notice if you feel a little uncomfortable being the only white person in the room. Think about how BIPOC folks all the freaking time. So I think it's good for white people like me to be in the minority when we can't put ourselves in the minority.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then and we have our guiding principles to reflect that, you know, and so we really make it very intentional about our consent policies, about our, zero tolerance, about, anybody doing anything that will harm somebody else. So we're really, I mean, we've been very, very fortunate that that has not that I think that happened. Like we had one incident, our very first Sex Down South, and it was one white guy who thought he could say the N word freely.
Oh, that is not awareness of white privilege.
Well, he hasn't come back, so
thank goodness. I mean, that's like some basic. Wow, right. If you don't understand that,
right,
you're so far behind.
Right. That was quite a while ago. So hopefully, he's learned his lesson. I mean, that was 2015. So yeah.
Right. Yes, maybe he's learned.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the exciting news about Sex Down South and Velvet Lips. When is the next Sex Down South?
The next Sex Down South is September 8th through the 10th. It is, we will be having a pre-con. I believe Jen Ronner is going to be doing the body sex pre-con, and I think we might have some pre-con for continuing education credits as well. But the main event is September 8th through the 10th. It is a hybrid. So folks who are, if you're not able to make it in person, we will have virtual tickets for folks.
And where would people find tickets if they wanted to go?
Sexdownsouth.com. Yes.
Sexdownsouth.com. Awesome. Sexdownsouth.com. Excellent. Yay. So Marla, you wrote a book. You wild thing, you. Tell us about your book. Do you have a copy of it you could hold up for us?
Of course I do.
Excellent. Oh, I totally
want it. Of course I have a copy. Yes, Jess and I.
Look at that beautiful book.
Yes, Jess and I co-wrote the book.
I love the ladybugs.
Yeah.
Love them.
The Ultimate Guide to Seduction and Foreplay, Techniques and Strategies for Mind-Blowing Sex. So it basically, what I'm really super proud of this book because this contains both of our sexual theories that both of us have been teaching for a long time, but now finally, it's in print, bam. So my sexual theory is on the seduction learning styles, and Jess's theory is on the core erotic feeling and the elevated erotic feeling. And basically we use those sexual theories to inform how that plays into seduction and foreplay and really how to connect with your partner. And then this book is lots of awareness exercises, but then we also give the practical piece, which is what kind of like in academia I, would get pissed off about, because I'd be like, yo, we can do theory all day, but if we don't practice, what's the point? So we have lots of strategies, actually things you can do easily to help your, sex life. So yeah, super proud of that. It's awesome. Definitely go grab it. You can get it on my website, autograph version. So yeah.
And who are your readers? Like, who would get use from reading that book?
Everybody. So it's gender neutral. We use gender neutral language. So it really is for everybody, whether you're single, whether you're in a relationship, relationships, it doesn't matter. Because it really is around like self-awareness and sort of like using your sexual assets. What are the things that you can do to make your life better? And it's just full of like ideas. So it's like if you don't like an idea, you can try another one, you know, because there's like a ton.
So it sounds like a smart and practical book, like smart, reading about theories and ideas, but then also how to put these theories into action, which I
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
agree is missing from a lot of academic stuff. Absolutely. Fantastic. How did you two come up with this idea?
I admired it just from, from afar. And then when we asked Jess to be our keynote for Sex Down South, we just became like instant friends. So it was really incredible. And we're just we are good friends and great colleagues, and like I'm just forever like impressed by her, and so we really work well together. And so we were like, okay, well, she was approached for this book, and she was like, I can't do that without Marla's like theory on seduction. Like she's the one that has this really amazing theory that needs to be out there. So she basically told the publisher, if we can get Marla to do it, like let's do it. And that was awesome. And we did this book in 2 weeks. So we spent
Wow.
every day writing for we just
Wow.
booked 2 weeks off of our calendars. I went to California to my parents' house and just wrote all day, every day for 2 weeks. And we finished.
That is fantastic. That takes some skill and discipline. I'm so impressed. We got a really good question from the audience
Hmm.
about, I think, both your Velvet Lips practice and your book. What do you teach in seduction, and how does consent figure in?
Yeah. So what's really cool about the way that I teach seduction is that it's not coming from a predatory lens, which kind of sucks in the social media world. Because when you say seduction, they automatically think pickup artist or something of that nature. What I'm actually showing you, or what my theory actually is based on, is how to connect with someone else who maybe it's sort of like love languages, right? Everybody understands love language. You might have a different love language than somebody else, right? This is essentially very similar in the sense of that you have a particular seduction learning style and somebody else might have a particular seduction learning style. So what are the ways that you can use your own sexual assets to make sure that how you're connecting with them is good, and the way that they need to hear you, and the way that they need to be connected to you. So essentially, seduction is a way of connection, a way of communication, in a way of helping people to see you. Um, so exactly what I teach is thinking about the visual, the auditory, the tactile. So for instance, if Eli is visual and I know I want to connect with to Eli, then I know, okay, well, maybe I need to put on some lipstick, I need to put on maybe my big earrings, or I need to visually be pleasing for Eli. Or maybe when I walk in the room, I need to be the opposite of the room, right? So it means if the room is busy, I need to be um, moving slowly or standing still so that I can catch, Eli's glance, right? Because that is what happens with visual people. So I basically teach people, hey, there's a way to connect with someone that is in the realm of how they move and connect in society. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. Even when I'm coaching clients, I had had a client one time where he was like, oh, I met this woman at a cafe and I thought it was going to be a great connection. And she was reading a book by an author I really loved. And, so I asked her about the book. And, so she's like, oh my gosh, you know who this is? And she starts talking and talking about the book and everything. And then he interrupts her, number one. And then he starts talking about himself in the book. And I'm like, clearly she was auditory, because auditory people actually love to talk and they love to hear themselves talk, although they might not know to admit that, but they love to hear themselves talk. So they really feed on people who are asking them questions or giving them feedback. And so it's a really important connection skill. And so he wasn't understanding that, oh, if I just would have kept asking her questions or kept giving her feedback about what she was saying, doing some active listening, I probably would have been able to maybe get her number and make a better connection. And so that is how I'm speaking of the seduction learning styles and how you navigate, those ways of connecting. And then thinking about consent and figuring that in, in one of my classes, I talk about cautious flirting, right? And cautious flirting is just a way of getting consent or connecting with someone to see if they are welcoming you in their space. So things that you can do, as far as because like if we're here in the US, right? If you go in someone's personal space, if they are interested, they usually kind of stay there. If they're not interested, they usually kind of back up. So reading upon these nonverbal skills are a really great way to understand consent without having to be like, can I do this, or can I do that, or can I do this? Now, of course, verbal consent is, necessary sometimes, but at Sex Down South, we really talk about all the different kinds of consent, and that is, whether it's verbal, whether it's nonverbal, whether it's intuitive, whether there's different kinds of consent. We just can't count on verbal consent to be the end all be all, because there are people who can't speak, there are people who are deaf, there are people with all sorts of other disabilities, or even if you're in a dungeon and you're in subspace and you can't speak or do anything, maybe you need a gesture. So really thinking consent in a bigger and broader way, I think, is necessary, and not just thinking of it as verbal. So that is just one piece of thinking about consent in a seduction kind of sense.
With this kind of collaborative view of seduction, like we're in this together. How do we get interested in each other together? I love that instead of the predator prey version. Love that idea of seduction. And this kind of, it just in a way, I guess it speaks to me about who you are, because you choose to collaborate on writing the book, like you collaborate with people on producing all of this amazing content, like putting out these really incredible ideas that you have that I enjoy so much. And I love that you both write it out in a way that other people can really read it, and it's accessible and interesting and approachable, and that you live it on all of these levels. Like you seriously walk your talk. And I like that about you.
Oh, thank you.
And your
I
writing.
try.
So good.
Thank you.
Yes. So I know within the last year and a half or so, you had a baby.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Oh my gosh. He is ginormous. It's like big as some 2-year-olds. So I had a baby, April 24th, 2021, pandemic baby. And it was great. I had a great pregnancy. My baby came on the day that he was predicted to come. My labor was 8 hours, so came quickly. I had a good pregnancy. That shoving the baby through your vagina thing probably was not the funnest, I would say. But it went well. And I did the whole, I'm such a hippie at heart, so I did the whole natural birth, no meds, no, I had midwives, I didn't have any, I didn't go to the doctor or anything like that. So it was really, I think the first time, I went to a doctor was like 2 days after he was born. So, for the pediatrician. So I think that was, so I was really thankful about, how that whole thing went down. And we call him Marla Jr. because he looks exactly like me. It's kind of funny, but his name is Malachi, and he's sweet and has a great laugh, an infectious laugh, and he's fun and just an incredible, incredible little baby.
And how do you balance being, this sex positive personality and entrepreneur? And I mean, I must think just the month around Sex Down South alone must be just insane with planning and traveling. How do you do all that?
Well, I'm very lucky that Esther and we found a caretaker to help us with Malachi. So I was struggling a bit because I was like, I want to get back to, my career, my passion, I love, but I love, being with him and sharing space with him and doing all the things and making all his food. And I plan on homeschooling him, and which is great. Why? Because I work from home, it's really kind of convenient. um and Also, to like, yeah, we hired someone to help while I work. So our caretaker Ashley comes in, and she's basically like a personal assistant, babysitter, caretaker. Like, for the kink camp that I'm doing, I had her put together like the neurological pinwheels with my business cards and stuff. So she, like, does stuff for, us around the house, and does stuff for me, and helps with the baby. And so having that extra person, because my wife is a 9 to 5 person, so it's kind of like, having that extra help is a tremendous gift, and I'm very thankful and blessed that I am able to have all those things and still get to spend time, with my baby. So that's how I'm doing it. So she's coming with me tomorrow. I have to be in Atlanta for a board meeting, for a board retreat for a few days. So she's coming with me there. Coming with me to Baltimore for the kink camp. I mean, she's not going to be at the kink camp, but but she's coming with me there. And yeah, so any kind of trips that I'm taking, she's going to be coming with me. So
That is amazing. Fantastic. So on top of all of this that you just listed, which is a ton, you just won an award for ASECT, which is the American Association of Counselors, Educators of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, AASECT. Tell us about your award.
Yes. So Luna Matatis and I won an award for our Race and Kink live web series. So we, during, after the murder of George Floyd and just all the things that were going on in the kink community, with the folks being just super racist, like, can you get any more racist? So we decided to form this thing around race and kink and talk about BIPOC folks and their experiences in the kink community. What's it like to be either minority or majority, or I think what Solomon called it, urban privilege, where you like don't necessarily have to play with other people. You can play within the Black race or your own race or whatever. So so we really were able to have those discussions, and so we brought on lots of different prominent folks who were like educators in King, so like Midori and like Setting Jasmine, King Noir, Ignacio and Redvi, and just lots of different amazing Kingsters. Angel Arioja from Frolicon, from Folsom Street. It's just a really lot of amazing presenters who talked about their experiences. Um, and we just learned a lot. And so we were able to, yeah, we won that award. And I was like, yay, I'm finally award winning. I've always felt award winning, but I never got an award for anything. So I was like, so I'm really happy and proud of that. So yeah. And we did, and then Luna and I are also really, so I don't know if you're into like astrology or not, or what, but I looked up
Some
my
people
chart.
associated with the Bonding Project are very much into astrology. Absolutely.
Okay. Yes. Oh my gosh. So I did, so Chani Nicholas, who's a queer astrologer, I did my chart according to her book, and it was like, oh, you thrive in collaborations. So my life is like a bunch of collaborations, right? So like my Velvet Lips virtual festivals, all collaborative. I mean, I like head everything, but it's pretty collaborative. Sex Down South is collaborative. Luna and I for Racing Kinky Tapas is collaborative. Everything I do, I really like to partner, because that is how I thrive. And I do better in partnerships. So yeah, it's all in my chart apparently.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, darn it. I had the perfect question I was going to ask you. Oh, darn.
Oh, I'm sorry you lost it.
I did. What's next for you? While I consider I lost that question. Darn it. So what's next on your horizon?
Yeah. So what's next? So I'm doing I'm ready to step into sort of the next phase of my educational business. And so I really want to work with people and have a membership community and have that be available for folks. So all of my classes and things, just helping people that way. So that is kind of what's on my horizon so far. But I'm always open to new collaborations or whatever. But yeah, that's what I'm getting ready for. So my
So
virtual
where should people look for that if they want to join up with you?
Yeah,
Where
so
should
you
they
can go on
look?
my website, velvetlipssexed.com. I have a couple, so I have a all femme everything, which is going to be a femme only party happening in person in Atlanta. And then I have, after that, I have Dick Fest, which is a virtual festival. So it's a weekend virtual festival. And then August, that's in July, and August will be Booty Fest for August. And then in September, of course, Sex Down South and all the things. So, but you can go on my website or sign up for my newsletter, and I'll let you know what's going on. I'm usually teaching for some sex shop here, or some kink camp here, or some swingers group there. So I have a lot of different things and places I'll be throughout the year.
Fantastic. So we do have one more question from the Q&A, and I would encourage you other audience participants, if you do have a question for Marla, please drop your question in the chat or in the Q&A, either one of them. So the question we have now is, where did the sperm come from for your child? If you have a wife, did you use a friend or a sperm donor?
Yeah, so we attempted to do the IUI thing first, which I really didn't want to do because me doing the hippie thing. I was like, come on, let's just do the old school turkey baster. So we got the new school turkey baster, which is called the Mosey Baby. But what we did first was the IUI, and it didn't take, and so then we were doing it on our own, and that wasn't going well, and we were spending like thousands of dollars. to do that. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. We need to know somebody. And one of our good friends was just like, how about me? And we're like, you're like family. And like, hi. We're like, nah. And so I went on a bunch of sites. Like, so Esther and I were just cruising all of these, like, donor sites. And I put out a, request me like, hey, I would love, to, if there's any Black donors, in and around Florida. And uh, somebody DM'd me and was like, hey, this guy helped me out. He might help you out. And I asked him and he said yes. And I was like, great. And so I think it took about 3 cycles, right, of ovulation before we finally hit, but it was great. So, yeah, so it was a person who was a referral from a stranger via Facebook. So not anonymous, but not a friend. And so he's been super gracious. He's also going to be the donor. So Esther and I are in the process of doing reciprocal IVF. So right now we are pumping her up full of her eggs are, getting all nice and juicy, and so to be extracted next week. And so he's going to be the donor again for this child. So Esther so is going to be extracting those eggs, and I'm going to carry the baby again. That's reciprocal IVF. So I will be carrying Esther's egg.
So you'll both be biological parents. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Legally,
and
that's
hopefully
great.
that goes well, and and if it doesn't, back to AI.
Right. Well, we do have another question. You mentioned that you got almost to the completion of your PhD, and then weird things happened. What happened?
Well, there were so many things that happened in this process of me, trying to get my PhD. One of them was, I was so amped, right? Because I had gotten a high pass, and the letter that I got was just like, oh, you got a high pass. A high pass hasn't been given since 1976.
Explain high pass.
So high pass is when, so it's there on your comprehensive exam. So basically, like, this is before your dissertation, that basically saying like, hey, you are qualified to move to this next round, right? And so with the comprehensive exams, I, basically passed them with flying colors. And you just get, so there's there's a fail, there's a pass, and then there's a high pass. And so I had a high pass, which is great. But then I got a backhanded compliment on my high pass letter, basically saying that like my dissertation subject would probably be the best work that I ever do in my career, because it was that freaking good. Like, that's how good that dissertation was going to be, right? And I thought, what's like, I am fabulous. There's always going to be more and great things that I can do. Like, why would you think that I could limit myself? So anyway, that was the first incident of the next steps into all it dwindling down. And so as I'm trying to do my defense for for my dissertation proposal, I just kept getting like, no, it's not good enough, or no. Mind you, no, we had nobody at this time in gender and sexuality. So everybody was coming from marriage and family or something else. Like, we had no gender and sexuality. I had no gender and sexuality mentors at the time, and the ones that we did have were already full of students. And so I kept getting stalled on my dissertation proposal saying like it wasn't good enough, it wasn't good enough. And I was like, how the hell is it great enough? It's going to be the best work, but I can't even get past this hump. So there was that, and then on top of that, they literally changed the rules for the white people who were in my cohort in my program, and then did not let me know that they changed the rules. So they had this rule of like you couldn't defend your dissertation or had proposal like in the summer, and then they changed it once, one of my colleagues, was like, I need to do this, and didn't let me know. So I was just like, you know what, the lapse of communication is horrendous here. Like, I don't want to be a part of this program. And I think they literally still thought I was a part of the program, because I mean, like 3 years later, they were still sending me emails like, hey, we want to know what's happening with your progress on your dissertation. And I'm like, I teach at Clayton State University. I'm not even doing anything in the program anymore. I'm not, what are you even talking about? Like, that's how much you are paying attention to me, that it's 3 years later. Um, and on top of that, there was a survey, an independent survey that was done on the department, and they showed that there was a lot of racist things happening, that we were at a far disadvantage for the folks of color in the program. So and I also got a lot of shade too for working in the public health program, being a graduate research assistant there. So I also got a lot of flack for that, because the stipend was higher, and and I was doing great work. I was doing stuff in HIV and public health, which has helped me tremendously. I just gave a presentation the other day on HIV and aging, because like I have that knowledge now. So it really, yeah, I really put a sour taste in my mouth, and I'm still very, very bitter about it. And if there's ever an opportunity for me to finish, I don't know how, where, what I'm going to do it, but I'm hoping maybe some university will just give me the PhD for the work that I've done so far, or will do maybe in the future. We'll see.
Well, they missed out
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
failing to graduate you, failing to mentor you. They dropped the ball hugely. And I'm also burned by academia. So, like it's a really strangely vicious industry. You wouldn't expect it, but it's people are really, I don't know, some people are lovely, as in every industry, I'm sure. But as an industry, it's, my graduate advisor told me one time that um, the crumbs of the pie in academia is so small, like there's so few resources, we make so little money, and there's so few whatever, that the people fight super viciously over the scraps because there's so little to go around. So
That's very, yeah,
think
very,
deeply,
very
listeners,
interesting.
before getting a PhD. Make sure there's a job on the other side. Do not get that PhD without a plan for a job on the other side, because they're expensive. You could be paying them off years later and not even get them. Marla is not the only student to have gone almost all the way through and been like, you know what, screw this. And then you end up with both no degree and student debt. But at least you still have your mental health and your self-respect. And that's
Absolutely.
important,
Absolutely.
more
Absolutely.
important than a PhD.
Absolutely. And go somewhere that really fosters like you. It's interesting because when I started teaching at Clayton State, my supervisor there, she was like, just finish your PhD. She's like, just finish. And I was like, I don't want to go back to that place. It has burned me. And I mean, I'm still there, I don't know, 8 years later, but I mean, I'm not working full time now. I'm only working part time, but it's, I'm only teaching like one or two classes a semester. But at least, I'm in a department that, is full of folks of color and full of, support. And I just it feels much better there than where I was. So
Excellent. Looks like we have one last question. This doesn't have to be the last question, listeners. Oh, what's next for you? We did have that question and we talked about it. And check out Marla's website has because there's a lot next for her. Kink Camp is something that stood out to me. When and where is that?
So it's called Dark Odyssey Fusion, and that is it's going to be in Baltimore as the closest airport to the place. So I will be there for a week. So I will be teaching a few classes and doing some fun stuff there. Midori and I are going to do like a little gathering. Um, Naughty and Nollins, I think, in July. So I'll be teaching there, hopefully. And then I'm going to take a gap for a couple of months. Well, kind of sort of a gap, but to hopefully try to get pregnant. And then end of August, I'll be we're going to Paris
Ooh,
for a couple of weeks. Yes, I'm excited for Esther's birthday. And then I'll be teaching for Tashra, which is they just launched their International Kink Health Study. So I'll be teaching around like BIPOC folks and taboos. And then Sex Down South. And then, of course, like my virtual festivals. Like I said, but if you join my email list, velvetlipsexed.com, you can find out about all the things and get informed that way.
so it looks like the last question is, how do you foresee explaining kink to your children?
So that's so interesting because I know this question pops up a lot, especially for kinksters, with kids who typically like, hey, and what how do I foresee it is I kind of think of it as like these are mommy's toys, is it mama's toys, and these are your toys. These are we play with these adults. These are adult only toys. These are child only toys. And so I don't really feel like think I need to explain kink, especially to a child. Because if they ask what something is, you can easily just say this is an adult toy, and they'll usually be like, oh, okay, and that's it. Unless they want to explain further, and then you just be like, it's an adult toy, and adults, they have playtime, and this is one of the toys that they use in playtime, just like you use one of your toys in playtime. And as they get older, I'm guessing probably teenagers know a lot now, so probably by the time they're teenagers, probably already going to know either what kink is or have seen it on TV or in the media somewhere. So I would just explain it as it is kink can be a lot of things. It can be therapeutic for people, it can be for fun. It is it has been considered to be taboo, and while it's slowly moving out of being taboo, or I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe just in my world, but I think helping them to understand like, hey, like this is a fun adult activity, and when you become an adult, you can do and hang out and see what you want to do, or if you want to learn more, I'm here. I think what's really cool is that my mom was like what I would consider a sex positive parent, and really helped me to understand not only my body but like the agency that I have over my body, and to honor like my feelings, to honor my horniness, to honor those things, to listen to myself. And so I really want my child or children to do that, honor those feelings, and at the same time, understanding in the context of whatever is age appropriate. So I think having any kind of sex education that's age appropriate is going to be your best bet. But yeah, I mean, kids are going to learn about it sooner or later. So I just want to make sure that they have the trust in me, that they can ask me the questions and not feel any shame or stigma or feel any kind of guilt about asking me, because I want to be the person that they trust. I don't want, media or their friends or some other external, thing influencing them in a negative way when I know I have really great and proper information, especially as it pertains to consent and play and what kink is used for some people. So
That was a fantastic answer. Thank you so much, not only for that amazing answer, but your really interesting ideas, sharing them with us today. And I wish you the very best. And I do encourage people to check out your website at velvetlipsexed.com because there's so much happening there. You can follow Marla.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and happy Pride Month. I forgot to
Yes,
say, look,
thank
I've got
you. Yeah,
my
yes,
Pride skull shirt on.
yes, it's
The rainbow
lovely.
skulls.
Oh, I
Happy
should
Pride
have
Month
my
to you,
little
Marla.
gonna have my little pride, my little flowers.
Next
Oh,
time. All
happy
right.
pride.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Bye, everybody.